So I just finished Beast Game Season 2, Episode 7. Let's get to it. I was happy to say that I was right. A lot of people were making guesses that it was Jim who was going to be eliminated for the third heart because Monica was shown crying, but in the end, it was Katie. I feel like this would put a lot of heat on Monica though, because they had an all-girls pact, and but in the end, like two girls got eliminated. It doesn't look good in terms of like trust with Monica. But this episode, the loved ones of the 10 remaining players got to visit, so it was nice to see them have some sort of like human connection again, especially at this crucial point of the game. Jim's mom was rather, I find pretty wholesome. I don't know about you, but I actually also enjoyed the discussion between Monica and her parents regarding like the amount of money they would settle in exchange for the $10 million coin. And honestly, like I'm with dad's side. Like if there's a guarantee 1 million in exchange for the coin, I would rather take the 1 million at that point because like yes, now it's a difference between like 100% of 1 million or a 10% chance for an extra 9 million, which for me is like at that stage of the game, it's like the difference between 9 million isn't that much at that point. Brett explaining to his wife that mix and mingling with all the loved ones of everybody else is part of the gameplay because it's a social game. But it's interesting to see that he doesn't apply that same social game with other players because him and Corey are basically the two stragglers who doesn't have any alliance. They're basically their own two-person alliance because they don't have any other alliance. So what's interesting is like they spent so much time showing the loved ones, like I think it was over 20 minutes, that I thought that there would be an interesting twist where potentially, I don't know, like maybe the loved ones would be spectators to the next challenge, but in the end they just left. So I feel like there was so much time wasted on that. But honestly, like I feel like maybe for the next season they should consider having the loved ones just spectate because I feel like it would be very interesting to see how that plays out. Like I feel like the gameplay of the players would change knowing that their loved ones are watching and seeing how they act in certain situations. So at the challenge, it was pretty clear even before the challenge that it was pretty much like men versus women plus gym kind of like division. So it's not surprising that both Corey and Brett ended up picking Nick as the captain. But what I don't understand is like the mission is or the challenge is like being buried alive, but there wasn't really any point to it. Like the mission was basically similar to last year where um people had to like get their share of $1 million, but it's up to them how much money they get from the million, and each player gets a chance to pick in a certain order. So the only difference is that in this season, Nick, the captain, is the one who picks who gets to choose next because in the previous season they arranged themselves in a certain order before it happened and then they basically follow that order. So there was nothing really about the whole game mechanics that involved being like that took into account the buried part. So it feels like an unnecessary point at or a very unnecessary part of the game because like if you're not using people being buried as part of the game. Like, why did we even do that? So we pretty much end at a weird cliffhanger where Nick is trying to decide what he's gonna do with the 1 million. And I say weird because like he said yes when he got asked the question of if he's gonna take the $1 million, but at the same time I don't know if they ended it in a way where he said did he really say yes or they just edited it that way to make it look like he said yes. So I guess that's the weird cliffhanger. We'll find out next week. But overall, nothing really happened this episode. Most of the time went to the loved ones, like visiting, and you don't really learn any much more information about the players because it was pretty evident it was like going to be men versus women, and then the rest of the time it was just like prolonging the pick of like is it Nick or Monica who's gonna be a captain, and then the rest was spending time with Nick trying to explain or like rationalize and think what he's gonna do with the 1 million. So at least I feel like it was definitely critical for Nick to see his family before this mission, because it is a huge decision he has to do, and I feel like he has the most mental load for this episode specifically. But otherwise, it's really just a filler episode because like nothing really happens and you don't really learn anything new from the players. Um, so in terms of prediction, I predict like Nick will just get his fair share, because I say that because like I don't think he can deal facing with the aftermath if he didn't follow the fair share, especially since he has like set himself up right from the beginning that he's gonna be fair and he's gonna do what's best for everyone. So I'm not sure if he's willing to like backtrack his way out of that and face the people. So that's my prediction. At the same time, I feel like if he does end up going the opposite route and actually like steal more money, I feel like he would just take the entire million at that point, because I feel like there's no point um, burdening yourself with the consequences of facing the people if you're not going all in. So for me, it's like all or nothing. And yeah, that's pretty much my guess. But I still feel like he's gonna get basically just 100,000 instead of the million. So let me know your thoughts. It's a pretty like boring episode. Not much happened. So just really looking forward to what happens next week.